kick it up a couple of notches with a couple crotches. Let's see if we can shake these tourists down for some fake watches. I got a whole pack in my snatches in my satchel. There's a batch of batches that are tapping off their ashes at the edge of the ledge. I think they're going to go hammer it in with a sledge. My brain is sludge because I'm pushed to the edge and my McMuffin was burnt and frayed again. So now I'm spraying bacon at my main man, except he's made of cement. So I'm a seminal influence on his mother's oval, my friend. People have described me as seminal, but not in the sense that I have spawned a whole genre of hits. What they meant was that my pants were straight coated in jizz, and also at the edges there was some mixed in with whiz. Because the thing that I do that I like most of all is I pump on my dongle while I'm rubbing my balls, and then at the end of that, after I do it a while, I spray out some gunk and I'm like, that's my style. So I'm strutting down the street like a dude in a jizz-soaked suit. Because I soak my suit with jizz and I'm a dude, I like to walk around and say, oh, Scoot, because there's giant evil hamsters. Whenever I poop my stuff, so many gerbils, so deep up my bums, that they pop out like a Gatling gun. I am like gerbil launcher, straight out the ass, and I'll give your girl head if you trade me some grass. This was the latest report from Elbow Hiawatha Pockington. He's got a pocket in each deep, and he's got the depths of 33 at the center. Try. So please avoid him. If ruffles have rigid, because my main man built all his bridges like Clay Higgins knows. But he also knows snitches, and you know what they get, so snip it or you risk flipping the biscuit. That is the impression that I get. I do a hula hoop dance with an egret and I get down with the egret sound, but then they accuse me of egret chili appropriating, and I was like, you'll regret expropriating that you're going to flex while sewing on the mat. No knowing how you'll get this glue gun going till it's gone, like I shown shine in a pond, like a flash in a span, like a cat in the moor, like I'm playing with my food, like I'm just ribbing with y'all. You got goats and goats and goats like a goon gun? You spray loons out your tunes till they are pruned, hun. You are nothing but scummy scum buckets. You like to play gin rummy with sluggets and with maggots and with snailets and with chickens and rhymes. And you like piling up purple for a voodoo circle with chimes. I smell the bay that you have begun against me, because whenever you hold it in me, I start squealing like a feeling that you'll know if you've ever been held underneath a football field of snow and crippled like an easy shade of lime. That is why we pile inside your mind. We create a hive, and in that zone, we thrive. You can't escape Ricky Lake, because she is on the make and she'll sneak up in an alley to pray your soul to take, and your life chops out. Your neck like a wire broom, your wife sobs out to, heck, I'll try her soon. So deep in her grief, she'll easily turn to me and she'll say, you don't know how much he meant to me. And I'll say, hey, his blood was red to me. And she'll say, what? And I'll say, hush, and then we'll make love, and then we'll fuck, and soon she won't remember she ever loved you. You'll be dead, your blood, you'll spew, and I'll be banging your wife all night, and then in the morning to until noon. Then we'll have to drink lots of liquid and stuff till we feel really glad, and then we'll bind about how much we miss you, and then I'll kill Dad, and then we'll eat his nasty body. Man, my secret real wife, and then I'll eat her and eat you too, and then I'll take my own life, because I'm a chicken scab. That was a sad report from East Glimpton, from a madman with Hades on the brain. He's secretly waving at you right now, but you think he's gone digesting in the belly of the shark? You can almost swear it wasn't you, but where did its reflection go? You remember that memory. You remember seeing that shelf, and you remember seeing that glass cabinet door closed, and you remember seeing a reflection of that shark eating, and you're like, that's not a shark. Why does the shark look like me? And we know the truth, don't we? And we know you can try to conceal something like that, but when it bubbles out, it'll just be all the more horrid, like a theatre of marionettes popping down like oxygen masks at the moment of maximum terror, and you're like, it's fine. And how do we know how much Slimeball Monroe met him on the market? Did he glower down to town, or did he sneak across? People can sneak and people can grow, and people don't know how much they floss or gloss themselves over. But if you add it up at the end of the day, a person gets a general sense of their intent, and especially as the decades pile on, and you begin to accrue a set of averages from all manner of different modalities in your life, you will come to see a trend, and at the center of that strange lattice work of Texan threads is you and all of your heirs lay bare before everyone else, and you alone struggle to see them, concealed from this framework of tacks and threads that you have woven all around yourself in an effort to make sense of the one thing you cannot see, yourself. And I believe that you need to understand this to proceed any further, but that's not the way. Sandy Duncan heard it, is it? You know something about that, don't you? I'm concerned that you know everything about it, and I can see from your face that you want me to know less about it than I do. So I'll just pass on for now. But I will say this: fish cannot fly. Charles. No, dogs cannot swim. Some dogs can swim, some fish can fly. Okay, that's your strategy for this evening. I want you to focus on object prayer, line 6, and its porcelain qualities, and reflect on how these qualities could be best exemplified poetically. If you fail to do each and every of these 6, 9, and 22 things, I will ask that you perform exercise 42 subclass section 8, which consists of the following diatribe. Please unlengthen me space-wise, for my elotic dawn has poisoned me again. My whiteness stretches ever forth, unburdening me lengthwise yet again, across a tall, boundless fathom that hangs like a gulf beneath me. Oh, praise in the air I feel, and the sweat beads out on my forehead as I again press into one book. One solid pour that grants grain in the spaces are left over and left to my undying quench that will not relinquish its heart, because, as everyone knows, the span lengthens dramatically in the dark, and that's where we find ourselves entrapped again and again as we wheel about, facing the long weeks, trying to recharge and finding only bolts flying like havoc from our eyes, and we're like, oh, is this the way to Scotland? Is this the New Brunswick stop on our journey? And they're like, nah, dog. This is not the Rock of Gibraltar, and you had to go back and you were swimming under ice so thick that you could barely lift your head. And you knew soon you would find your death, and you ran onwards to those mountains because you had to stuff it down, and you were bent over backwards, walking like a crab on all fours, and you were begging Scotland to free you. But New Brunswick was far, far from the itinerary, and you didn't have any sense of where to go next. What to do? What could the next step be? But you knew you couldn't give up. So you crawled along like some kind of slug thing, without the benefit of a trail of slime. And you wept. You wept as you crawled, because you could see your fingers ground down to nubbins, and you were like, oh dear God, this cannot be my life. And then, as you expired, desiccated and absolutely desolate, on a rock in the desert, your skeleton made a shade for a lowly worm, and that worm became president and re-invoked the entire Maritime Trade Disposition Act of 1792 and used it to conquer Iowa. And it was only when key advisors had told him that the landlocked Iowa was already under United States control that he committed federal resignation and prompted a senior shift among his cabinet satellites that downloaded firmware. He had programmed in advance, giving him absolute and unfettered access to every way station along the path of each underwater internet optical pipeline. This made him an unprecedented deity among Earth's pantheon, having some form of corporeal existence, and he used this to overload all Netflix broadcast with a streaming reminder of the multifarious nature of essence and how essence cannot resolve. And this was met with a great deal of division by critics at the time, who were then shortly thereafter purchased by a hedge fund and summarily executed. The elimination is policies processed and produced by Fossil. Evidence meant little or nothing to the big, or some things that were little or everything about what they had to do next. They were big and part of the things about how to do it, however. The space left bare by the endless hedging was soon filled with the voices of dissidents who prompted a closer look at the screening. Keeling cries of Catherine Keener and Maynard Coonan. Only two of whom are real people. Kingland, of course, being the prime frond and lead president of the Frenzels Association for Traffic Jammed Grifters Graphical User Interface Quality Assurance Division, was not available for comment, but they were available to give it a quick thumbs up, and so we know they're on board. That the green silos are actually green. So lies, because every single one is a satellite-powered missile launcher with a radioactive booster. If we were to stand within 29 hectares of one of these so-called grain silos, we would find that they are massive wind turbines that push out electricity in the form of steam that is riddled through with so-called enhanced organisms that are responsible for all the copyright law changes in the last 50 years. And despite a massive effort to cover it up by approximately 17 people, all of them in key positions, and they form a kind of pentagram around the country. And if you connect the dots of these people at any one time, even though their location shift, the relative distances between them and the relations of the angle remain constant. They move on very precise paths, and if you were to map this out in real time, you would see this gigantic 17-point pentagram shifting its focus all over the country, and it can increase in size and decrease. Always proportionately, so that the shape remains constant, and whatever is in the epicenter of that shape that they create with their essences becomes the focal point of the long-range degradation that they cast on the suffering victim. And that is information that those in power would pay good money for it, and they pay bad money for it. They pay any kind of money they can get their hands on, because they know that the roving eye of the geographic pentagram could well search for them, and all they have to do to avoid it is move left, right, up or down, and that's in the north and south sense, guys. Although it might work to do in conjunction with one of those other directions, you can't change elevation to avoid the geographic pentagram for the precise reason that it is not elevation specific. That is one vector. And maybe this is a two-dimensional pentagram that is best suited to being depicted on a two-dimensional map. Even a globe would work. It's when you get into the z-axis, there is no depth. One of the pentagrams can be on the peak of Mount Rainier, while the other is in the depths of the deepest valley in the east coast, and it would have no difference as long as the x and y relationship between their coordinates was maintained at any elevation. The person in the center of this pentagram would be feeling the massive hurts, and there's just no way you're going to climb or descend your way out of it. You have to move swiftly and sharply to one of the two-dimensional directions available to you, such as left or north. A failure to abide by these standards will result in an instant torture cursing, and you will be like, oh, snap! Because that's the kind of way that people who feel these things, that become within the eye of the pentagram. As they say they tend to react with extreme pain and suffering, and the last thing most of them feel as they climb up or down some shaft is regret that they felt that the altitude was a deciding factor, when really it was the only dimension in which movement was futile. And so I don't want that for you. And if you don't want to be the victim of this giant pentagram eyeball either, if you don't want that for yourself, as much as I don't want it for you, then there's steps you can take right now. I cooked a dastardly fellow in the face for a decisive blow the other day when he exclaimed, "How so?" And I explained to the man that his dastardly doings had come to a decidedly determined end. Determined how, said the man, and I say it, determined by my boot. And I kicked him again in the chin, and his jaw flew up back. I bit himself on the butt, and he flew down his own throat. I watched in stunned disbelief as he shot himself out at maximum velocity, and then, in Bluty and shit and I'd he began to burble and beep, and he was like, peck, peck, peep, peep, like a Barbie bird, and Air was like, what the fleet? Flipped him on his back. Slapped him on his crack. I said, what's up, buddy? Don't you ever come back. Kicked him down the stairs, pulled out all his hairs, stuffed him up his nose, and set-fired all his clothes. I was like, "Yous, Batty, I'm gonna chop you." I chopped them up with the chop and the choc, mate. I chopped them up with the meat. Got chopped and chop every week, till your week won't stop him. Stop all the chop when you pop your peep in. I'm gonna pop your peep out your pop peep skin. Peep pop. Your fork skin's pops off to keep. Can I got to keep beeping cause my peep pop walked out the fork out. Doubt again, don't doubt. I'll have that scab worked out, my man. I like Roman butts and I like rubbing friends. I like wearing undergarments made by Depends. I like shooting booties out my poopies again. I snot out my nose, and then I'll rub on my clothes, and then fire you rolling dull and those, and then I get the wax out my ears, and then they'll rub in their beers, and then they'll make people drink it. And I say, "Huh? You had a Sarumania drink your Fargo?" And then they're like, "Sarum and old floral blaggle." And I'm like, "No, nor old naggle. You got floral hydrate, Klonopin balms. You got to go to ambidextrous or Mola, Dexton on your mums." We're like Moliocolossus, Polio-oleosis, Scandalous banana, Realist punk skull, no menosis. Frank William, how many glimtonics do you got when you go? Gremlin on your flimbians and gremlins a lot. Do you eat gremlins and spam benblins on bevellands and crocs? Yeah, you're... I eat lots of horny little bobo toads, whether I got money or not. I got plenty of snot, and I like bunnies that hop, and I think lots of little kindergarteners needs to get arrested by cops. I think that breasts can go flop, and I think chickens are stop, and I think piglets are go, and I say kangaroo, but it's pronounced kangaroo, and I like frogs. I like kittens and moths and frogs, beakers and blades. I like chickens and toasters and most of the Everglades. I pour pee on my legs. It smells better for days. I like poking the pink skins down there in my face. I got goats on my head again, goats on my mind. There's goats on my booty, now goats on my thighs. I like piling my eyeballs into lidocaine cream. It numbs my throat when I'm eating goat spleen. That's the most doting that my throat's ever been. I like pounding the oat skin and poking the bean. I got flip snad in my blanket, a pop basket's a fiend help. My whole trendamen is cool ending me. I do not know the end of where the ending begins. I only know that the beginning is an end of the thing. The start of the end is like the beginning again, but when it ends at the start you never see what you meant, and there's a chicken cement, and there's a flick in the eye, and he's got a glint of a rooster, and there's a pig on its thigh, and he's like a big Barnier player, and he likes giving them pie. They're like, "Thanks for the pie, sir," and he's like, "Yeah, eat it or die." He's a honking old pig, and he got them gremlins for noses, and he's got ashtrays for eardrums, and he's got chicken's roses. He's like hecka ferocious, and he eats like a bigot, and he pops all his blimps, and eats sausage fidgets, and he fidgets with gadgets, and he likes to get it with Gidget. He's down to chase around any clown who's got sickness. He loves rubbing on his own brown little business that he keeps in his boxes because he's down for the shitness. Can my frown get a witness, or do I have the mittens that it takes to provide the evidence of my forgiveness? Is there a lemonade sauce hiss in the stand for my piñatas? Or do I have to go ham style on your uglets? You got kittens and hoglets and bigs for days. You got chickens and doglets, big mig mix and maze. I got stuck in a maze with a frictionless clue, and that's how my pants got all covered in poo, and then I started waddling down at the zoo. They thought I was a walrus, and I act like one too. So I was like art, and then I clapped at the fool, and then they were like, "Ouch! Ouch, ouch." And I got out of my pool, and I'm like as big as a house, and like, "Oh, now what we do?" And I said, "I'm gonna eat you," and they're like, "He can talk too." Pooped them out. That's what I'm due to you too, because I like putting humans in my mouth, but when they they come out, they're poo.
be a rule.